Are there foreign companies that are building in the Middle East, that like Halliburton or anything that fits that model that you can invest as a proxy?
Not enough that as a proportion of earnings it would serve as a proxy.
Now,
No.
moving on to Africa, which is the other continent, are we in a similar situation, or are there good bets there?
Well, in Africa, the most conservative investment is to go into South African metals companies. So Impala, platinum, we were talking about platinum earlier. Platinum is a safe bet, Anglo Gold. It really depends on where you feel we are within metals pricing right now. South Africa is very volatile. The metals companies share prices do not necessarily correlate to either the price of gold or platinum.
Is that because of the political risk, the perceived political risk?
No. I mean, in general, you won't necessarily see a great direct correlation, and you know far more about this than I. You won't see a great correlation between equity pricing and the actual commodity price of the metal, but they've been doing very, very well.
Yeah, well, this has been the reason that I've been steering, my subscribers to the Golden Energy Advisor away from buying South African, mining stocks because of the lack of correlation. But I always keep thinking to myself that eventually it'll catch up. But it seems that there's always an excuse. It's political, it's the electricity, it's the labor, that discounts, some of those assets.
Well, I think it depends on your investment goals. So if you want South African exposure, I would, in the current environment of increasing debt, slowing growth, higher inflation, I would only look at metals and mining stocks within South Africa. Otherwise, on a macro basis, looking at all of Eastern Europe, Middle East, and Africa, I would actually avoid it at the current time. But with the exception of those metals and mining stocks, which have been doing relatively well.
And how do you view the political risk in the Middle East, given the conflict we have going on in Iraq, issues with Iran, et cetera? How do you view that situation currently?
Well, political risk for investors, I think, is actually dramatically on the decline, because there's a pretty wide divergence between the political risk and the functioning of the financial markets. So you're in a very different situation from Russia and Eastern Europe, where not everyone has a bank account, where understanding of financial instruments is at an infancy stage. No one has mortgages, etc. In the Middle East, you have a pretty high level of financial sophistication. And so what's happening in the Middle East is more of an opening to foreigners, and that's the thing that we're waiting for. It's a reform and a deepening of their financial system. Now, politically, I see more of a disconnect between what's happening politically and how the Emirates feels about the Iraqi war.
Now, obviously, they're investing a lot in their infrastructure, but they're also now coming back and investing in our markets. Example, they own a good piece of Citibank. What are your thoughts on the sovereign wealth funds and coming back into our markets now?
Well, it's lucky for us, right?
Exactly.
So far, they've been pretty bad bargainers.
Yeah, they come in early in the process, in the crisis, not waiting to the tail end to jump in.
Or waiting till the very top, as in China's investment in BlackRock.
Right, exactly. The whole issue of opening up the markets seems to be the key to a lot of the political situation. When investors can trade across borders and they can buy homes and they can, look forward in the future by investing for the future, it seems to me that that's the first step of really calming the political environment and the danger, which, I'd like to end up with Israel. Are you making any recommendations in Israel at this point?
No, I don't really cover Israel. I haven't really been looking at the Mediterranean Middle East.
Right. Okay.
Although I've recently started looking at Cairo, because Cairo is one of the only outperformers this year.
One of the issues you've talked about in your research is the big risk of inflation. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Well, it's something that I'm currently looking at extensively, because I feel that the high oil price that we have has not really circled into inflation, and yet it's spiraling, both due to high oil, high food prices, but also due to huge wage inflation, which is happening within the infrastructural projects. So wage inflation and cost of goods has been spiraling in the Middle East, in Russia. On top of these commodity price spikes, in Russia, for example, you also have price liberalization. So Russia is allowing their prices to come closer and closer to market prices. In Russia, I think it's going to be a huge obstacle soon.
Stacia, I want to thank you for joining us today. We're running out of time, as we always do, with so many great questions to ask. Next week, we'll be discussing food safety in the United States, and a company that's coming up with something really exciting. For more information on today's show and the show in general, please go to www.wxel.org with your questions and comments. I'm James DeGiorgia.
And I'm Jeff Carbaz. For the Market Guys, good night.
To receive a copy of your favorite Wealth and Wisdom episode, or if you have a question or comment about our program, please feel free to write us at Wealth and Wisdom, care of WXEL, P.O. Box 6607, West Palm Beach, Florida 33405. Or call us at 1-800-915-9935, extension 4477. We look forward to hearing from you soon.